Hello and welcome back to Awakening to Your Story TV, the place to learn, get inspired, and be supported with heart-centered solutions to improve your life. I'm your host, Alicia Hartzell, and today we are going to be talking about building up your communication skills because who doesn't want to build up their communication skills, right? We got a great question about how can you actively become a better communicator, and there's no better way than getting heart-centered, becoming conscious, and stepping into a place where you feel good in your life so that you can communicate from that place. So, we are going to be looking at 8 tips to becoming a better communicator. And as we do that, I want you to know that you can head over to the blog where everything's outlined for you at the link and in the description below. And as we get started, I want to lay a foundation for you, right, before we get into those 8 tips. I often talk about being in a space of inner alignment for yourself, right? And I talk about that because it really is a good, tangible way to feel your way into that place of being conscious and being heart centered, right? Now, I want to give you 3 videos that are going to be really fundamental for you. The first one, you can find it up here or at the link in the description, is the stream kayak principle. This is a tangible way for you to really step into a place of consciousness, right? Because if you know where you are on the river of life and in relationship to your boat, you'll get that when you go watch the video, you're going to be able to be a better communicator, right? The next 2 videos that I'm going to link are about positive and negative bias and the power of your mind and creating a space of self-care and let's see, a growth and self-love mindset. Now, creating a positive bias is going to make your world feel more open. It's going to make everything in your life feel a little bit more possible. And that is a great place to be building your communication skills from, right? And then using the self-love and growth mindset, really take that positive bias even further in to your own ways of thinking and processing. And that's also going to help you feel better. And when you feel better, you're going to be a better communicator, right? So those are the 3 foundational things that I really want you to look at. And now let's go to the 8 tips. I've divided them into categories. The first 4 are going to be internal tips, and the second set, which are 4 as well, are going to be external. Now, the first internal tip is being present. Now, I know that probably sounds really easy, but we have a lot of distractions in our life, right? And if you go into a conversation really present, that means you're shutting out all of the chatter, whether that's chatter from being distracted on your phone or from your surroundings, or being distracted from the internal chatter that might be going on in your mind. If you have a tendency to think that maybe you're not the best communicator, there can be an internal chatter going on inside your mind trying to convince you that you are not a good communicator. And that chatter can be distracting, right? So go into the conversation really being present. Okay, number 2. This is really a strong one. Know what you want to say. Now, this is intention and tone. Knowing what you actually want to say or how you want to feel will really set the tone and the stage for the dialogue, right? Whether you're having a simple conversation, you're trying to get your point across, or you're just having fun with the people in your life. If you have an intention about what it is you want to communicate, then you're going to be able to bring clarity into the dialogue. If you set the tone for how you want to feel and how you want the other person to feel, it's going to be a game changer when you're in that space of building a communication with someone else, right? Now, the third one is really important too. It's about not being afraid to ask for what you want, understanding that the person in conversation with you may not be able to give you what you want or show up in the way that you may need. Now, we've all been in those conversations where we know what it is we want from the other person, but we never actually say it. And then we walk away from the dialogue feeling off, feeling like our needs weren't met, feeling like they didn't see us or hear us. And it's partially our fault because we didn't actually communicate our needs clearly, right? Now, being brave enough to communicate what you need in a conversation is really powerful and it's really healthy. But you also have to understand that the other person may not be able to show up in the way that you need them to. And that's okay. Because building a conversation doesn't necessarily mean everybody gets what they need all the time. It just means that you've created a safe place for the dialogue to happen, right? Okay, number 4, when to know not to say anything at all. Now, this one's a little bit tricky and it takes a lot of practice because you don't want to leave gaping spaces because that can be uncomfortable. What you want to do is make sure you're not pushing your thoughts and talking about yourself in a way that doesn't leave room for the other person in the dialogue to participate, right? Now, we've probably all been there too, where you shut down because you're reacting to something somebody said. That's not the same thing. It's not about shutting down, it's about leaving room for the other person to be brave enough to step in and join the conversation, right? So, knowing where to really let the silence be your friend. So that's the first 4. Being present, knowing what you really want to say, not being afraid to ask for what you need, knowing that they may not be able to give it to you, and knowing when to say nothing. Okay? So that's the first 4. Now the second set, which is the external tips, start with being interested and curious. Now this may be you may think this is a given, but it's really it's really not. We often, again, go into conversations really set on high to talk about ourselves, right? Like we're full throttle in it to win it. But there is an art to this too, right? Going in and being curious and interested about who they are, about what it is they want to say, and about what it is that you want to get from them, right? Or communicate with them. There's this really valuable thing about being witnessed. You probably want to be witnessed in the conversation and validated, and you want them to feel that way too. And if you go in really interested and curious about them, then that again helps you really build up this energy within the dialogue that keeps them attached to the conversation, right? Okay, number 2 is to hold space for respect and appreciation. Now, think of this as a container for your dialogue. If you are in a place where all the thoughts are getting strung together and it feels like some of it is going outside of that container of respect and appreciation, you have the power to bring it back. Now, you know what it feels like to feel respected and to have that sense of appreciation. And so, if you feel like something may be getting heated or something may be steering in a direction of negative bullying or something that feels off to your inner alignment, to that center place that you have the power to redirect the dialogue. You have the power to bring that respect and harmony back into the space that you're carrying, right? And that kind of goes back to tone as well. So you have the power to really hold that container for the conversation that you're in. Okay. Number 3 is actively listening. Now, we don't often think about activating this, but it's really, really valuable. So when you're in dialogue with someone else and they're saying things, it's really valuable to take key parts of what they're saying and repeat it back to them. It not only helps you stay engaged, but it lets them know that you're really paying attention to what it is that they're expressing to you, right? Now, if you are in a conversation and somebody says your name, you get pulled even deeper into the conversation. It's almost like a quick, oh, yeah, I'm here, right? So you can also, in that space of repeating what they're saying back to them, you can also add in their name every once in a while. Now, you don't want to say it all the time, but every once in a while, you can add their name in to let them know that you are plugged into what they're saying, right? So, an example might be if I were talking to a friend about a beach walk that I had had, and they said to me, Alicia, are you joking? You saw a whale breaching right in front of you? That's amazing, right? They said my name, they repeated back what I had said, and it lets me know, it triggers my mind, it turns on a switch to let me know that they are fully engaged, right? So remember to really actively listen and participate in the conversation. Now, the fourth one is to ask engaging questions. Now, this is really valuable because it really helps that back and forth kind of dance that you do in dialogue, right? So, asking conversational questions about what it is they're saying really creates momentum of that back and forth energy. So, if we look at the example that I just gave you about the beach walk, and they could say back to me after they've said, "Oh my gosh, wow, this is incredible." Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen anything like that before? Is that the first time you've ever seen something like that? See, an engaging question keeps me engaged in what they're saying. So then I could say, yes, oh my gosh, absolutely. So when you're in dialogue and you are participating in that kind of circular dialogue and conversation, remember to ask questions. Now, if you are trying to explain something to somebody or you're trying to get a point across, it's good for you to also ask questions to make sure that they understand what you're saying, right? I often find myself keeping people engaged in dialogue by saying, does that make sense? Is there a way that I could explain that better? Are you kind of getting what I'm trying to express to you? Don't be afraid to ask to make sure that they understand what you're saying, right? That really evens out the playing field for creating an open dialogue with someone. Okay, those are my 8 tips, right? We've got the internal 4, which are being present, knowing what it is you really want to say, not being afraid to ask for what you want, understanding that they may not be able to give it to you, and knowing when to say nothing at all. And then the 4 external, which are being interested and curious, holding space with respect and appreciation, actively listening, and asking engaging questions, right? Now, remember, this is all part of growing and learning. Don't be afraid if things don't go right away. It's okay. As long as you keep engaging and learning and practicing and showing up for the best version that you are in the moment, then you're winning and it's going to get better. Okay. Now remember to go over and watch the first 3 videos because I really want you to get into that conscious heart-centered place, and then practice these 8 steps because I want you to really step into a place of that inner alignment, knowing that you are a powerful and important communicator, right? Okay, like and share this video, subscribe to my email and subscribe to my channel, and know that I am holding a place for you where your ability to be a strong communicator is undeniable. And keep those questions coming.